What's going on, guys, and welcome back here to another episode of How to Arm Wrestle Part 4. This is going to be an overall explanation of everything that's kind of happened in the past couple videos. So we're going to go over everything fairly quickly and just make sure that we have everything down. So like I mentioned in the first video, how to position yourself. So always make sure when you're arm wrestling someone, always be square to them. Don't ever be off in any way. If you're at a table and you're hip high, example, let's go here. Let's pretend like the table's here. Get your hips into that table. Get it nice and square so that the table's literally right up your hips. Get it nice and tight. Bring the elbow in center, shoulders in, and you should be somewhere in this position. Like I said, don't ever come in or out. Too much in or too much out, especially if you're new. Now that we have all the positioning in, always make sure you're in tight. Like, try to keep the arm in. Don't let that arm go. Try to stay in nice and tight. And then you can pin your opponent. With pinning, as of positioning, you can go to the side and you can go back. You can lean back. So if you're on like some table, if you're actually like at an arm wrestling table, or you're on some type of table or a counter or anything in a bar, it could be anywhere, you can lean right back when you're arm wrestling someone. You don't have to be trying to like arm wrestle them just your arm. You are allowed. If you look at tournament rules and you see all these competitions, every arm wrestler on the planet is going to use their body. You need as much weight, as much leverage as you can. Arm wrestling essentially is a game of cheating. Who can get away with cheating? So use everything as you can. You'll even see in tournaments, if you guys end up watching some videos or already arm wrestle, you'll see people taking their feet and wrapping it around the pegs of the table. You'll see people leaning right back. You'll see people like just holding on with one peg and their whole body is, you'll see everything. So on to hooking. Now, hooking, like I said, it's more of a bicep movement. It's more for basic arm wrestling. It could be used, pretty much all beginners tend to use this, and a lot of very high-end arm wrestlers, especially there's some world champs who hook. So it's not just a beginner's move. I just feel, as an arm wrestler myself, that hooking is just super easy. It's very basic. You can get so much strength out of it. And yeah, so we get in our positioning. We're nice and tight. Your opponent says go. You get that wrist in nice and tight. You get that bicep tight in there, like as if you want to curl your opponent. And you kind of want to just drag it with your elbow a little bit. Just drag and kind of just go to the side, or get in nice and tight and just kind of lean back a little bit. You have your hooking. Now we have your top rolling. So, top rolling, it's pretty, all it is essentially is you're just using your forearm for kind of as like a leverage point, like a fulcrum essentially. You bring in that forearm nice and up high. You want to get those knuckles nice and right to the sky. Hands go right up. You lock in with your opponent. You bring over your fingers, and you always want to be showing knuckles. So essentially when you start your match, pronating, so you're bringing your wrist inward, you want to pronate, and you kind of want to follow through with it, as opposed to bicep curling where you're kind of doing this. And like I've mentioned with top rolling, it's very effective if you tend to be a taller person, or you have a much bigger forearm and wrist with hand control, all that stuff, than someone who's opposed to being very small. And if you're a smaller guy or a smaller woman, you probably are going to end up hooking. So it's pretty straightforward. You're up high. If you're top rolling, you're kind of pronating with your wrist. You're always coming in with it, trying to let the other opponent's wrist go back so you get an advantage, because it's hard to win a match if you have no hand. Now, like I said, we have our basics, we have our hooking, and now we have our top rolling. This should pretty much sum it up for the video series of how to arm wrestle basics. Especially if you're a beginner, this is very helpful, because as you guys can tell in this video series, I don't actually even have a table here. I will in the near future. When? I don't actually know when, but I know in the near future, we're gonna get the whole setup, we're gonna get weights going, we're gonna have everything. It's gonna get a lot more interesting, but I figured before I get a table, I would start off by giving you guys the basics, so when we do get into it, everyone can follow along and have fun with it. Yeah, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe if you haven't, and only if you've enjoyed the content, please hit the like button, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. See ya.